Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita FINLEY.
We have author Monty Helfgott, who is he's a very interesting man. I have to say that I was really pleased to be able to review his book called The Silence, but he's not an average author. He's I would say a Renaissance man. He's always got things going. He, of course, wants to promote his own book. He wants it to be made into a movie, which I definitely concur. But he's doing some other things, too. So let's just welcome you to our show today, Monty. I know you are a man of many talents, I must say.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you again, Anita, and to talk a little bit about myself.
Yeah, well, but you not just do yourself. You always involve other people. People are attracted to you.
Yes. Well, I can tell you that the book that I'm working on in terms of promoting it to become what I call page to screen, called The Silence. It's a trilogy. And it's really, the genre is paranormal historical thriller. And it's really about a man who's trying to find out who he really is, what his identity is. And he goes on a worldwide search to investigate that. That's book one. And then we go back in time because this guy is able to, his name is John Mackenzie, and he's able to time travel. And he goes back in time to his ancestors at the turn of the 20th century, and he finds out more about them and wants to see how they have affected his life. And the third part of the trilogy is it goes a little further in time, 1920s to the 1940s, and we meet the main character's father, and we see what he was involved with, and also in Eastern Europe, and his involvement with both the Russians and the Germans in the 1940s. So it's a fast-paced trilogy that has a universal theme. And what I mean by that is that the idea that so many people really don't know who they are, where they came from, and they do want to find that out. And that's why Ancestry.com has been so successful. In fact, just the other day, I picked up a testing kit from 23andMe, and I'm going to try it myself to see where did I come from? Who are my ancestors? I mean, it's just, that's that historical aspect of myself that I find interesting.
Well, but now each of your books, they're all named The Silence, but so what's number 2? Because I don't remember. I have them all, but I don't remember. How did it differ from the first one in the title?
Well, it doesn't. It's just, book 2 and then book 3.
I see.
And it's a continuation.
That's why it's a trilogy.
Yes, that's why it's kind of like the Godfather trilogy, And it starts out in the 1940s, and it goes back in time, and then it goes forward. It's that, and that's what keeps people in a very lively pace, because there's a lot to it, and that's what I tried to provide.
Okay, and you do, and of course we had a lot of fun talking about your book, and I've always kidded Monty about it, that I really pictured your hero the minute I picked up the book. It was just one sexy guy who was like a 007, but
exactly.
Yeah, it was. But he's very intelligent, and he's really, he has a lot of money. He's everything that a woman would want,
he's
and
a billionaire, 6'5", long blonde hair, very handsome, striking Paul Newman blue eyes. He's a gemologist, but he also doesn't know who he is. He travels the world, winding up in the last chapter in Australia, which I've got to get to. I got to get there because I like to go to the places where my character went.
Of course. Okay, well, and I know that you're meeting with some people who are very interested in making this into a movie or making it into a TV show, something. And I wish you so much luck, because I think it's, of reading so many books I have over the years to do reviews, this one stands out for me. I know that this definitely, I told you that when I first started reading it, I couldn't put it down. It is just fascinating. And so I think there is something to it. So now, that being said, let's talk about what you're doing while all these other things are cooking.
Okay, so I call it fly fishing, meaning I cast out my line. I'm not sure what I'm going to catch, but it's good to have a whole lot of things. I have 10 different things going at the same time. And, some don't work out, some do. You never can tell. You have all kinds of connections with those that do. So in the meantime, I have continued with my Memoir Writers Club, which is going into its second year within my community, and I've been working with a lot of very interesting people who you wouldn't know that they've led so interesting lives, and I'm helping them write their memoir, their legacy for not only their descendants but for themselves. And some of their stories could also be turned into a docudrama or a film.
I want you to know that Henry Kay is now watching Facebook Live, and he actually is a great lawyer. I've known him for many years. He's, people just, they get on to Facebook, and if they see that I'm doing something or somebody they know, they come on. So you keep going. I just always got to tell you when someone's on watching you.
Okay. So, there's, to me, it's like a mission. I totally enjoy helping seniors, of which I'm one, to help them bring out their story. Because so many people have said to me, I wish I could have written something about my grandmother or my grandfather, but now it's too late. So now I offer that service within my community, and it's been phenomenal. I absolutely love it. So now, starting next October, it'll be year number 2. But in addition to that, there's something else I thought about. Well, how can I expand my interests to others, not only within my community, but within all southeast Florida? And I thought of an idea, and I call it a writers' consortium. And what is it really? Writers are a kind of special breed of people. Some of them are very jealous. Some of them are very needy. Most of them are very, very creative. And I said, well, how can I help them? How can I bring them together? 20 years ago, when I started writing my first novel, I worked with a writing mentor. And the first thing that she told me was, writing is one of the most difficult things you can engage in. And keeping that in mind, I thought, how can I help some of these writers? So I'm bringing together a group of people. They're going to be meeting in my home. And what is it that I want to do? Well, what I want to do is keep up their motivation. I want them to ask questions about something that they're involved in, some of the writings, and they can get feedback from other writers to keep them going. Because sometimes they just want to stop. They don't have that motivation because they don't get the kind of encouragement and feedback that feeds their appetite to keep on going. The other part of it is that I want to talk to writers about the business end of writing. You can write your novel, and a lot of them have their heads in the clouds, and they think that they're going to, all of a sudden, they're going to get an agent, and it'll be published. Doesn't really happen that way. But there are many different ways of going about it, and you have to understand how to do it. So how do you find an agent? How do you find a publisher? How do you work with a self-publishing organization that's professional and reliable? And how does that work? How can this self-publishing organization offer a lot of things that are necessary? Copyright, their IBS number, barcodes, editing, getting the book onto Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. And then what about the whole area of publicity and distribution, promotion? You have to have some book reviews. You have to have speaking engagements, radio and television publicity. How do you get that? How do you get it into print media? How do you deal with a book launch event? How do you develop a website? Social media possibilities. All these things, people that are just starting off, and some of them that have been in the business, they don't know anything about it. Having gone through it for many years with my own books and other writers, I want to be able to help them. That is, again, another part of my mission. And I hope that I can be successful with that. And then there's the other big thing. Maybe some of their books can go from page to film. And how can that happen? It could even be what I call a video trailer to a book, which can be made, or it could be a whole legacy video or a docudrama for someone who has completed their memoir, or if it's a novel, it could go into film, depending on what it is, what the genre is, who might be interested, and how lucky you might be, because it's very difficult.
And I also thought that they are looking for, the TV producers are looking for good information, good stories. So it's not totally unheard of.
No,
but it doesn't,
not at all.
They're not going to come knocking at your door.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
It's connections and knowing people and knowing how to sell yourself and present, getting people interested in what your story is about. I have my books are now in 2 production companies in Hollywood. And I haven't heard a word in 6 months, and probably may
you
never.
Never know.
Never, but you never know. Now I'm going to be meeting on Monday with another production company. This gentleman and his wife, they have a production company. They're in and out of Florida as well as Hollywood. They've done a lot of things over the past, I'd say, 30 or 40 years. This is not a youngster, but you never know. So I'm going to meet with them. I'm going to find out what they're up to. I'm going to tell them what I have done, what I have to present to them. Not only my 3 books, but I have a lot of other product online. There's 2 more novels that I'm almost finished with, and a children's book, believe it or not, which is going to go into production. I just have to get the graphic artist to do the artwork for it. Very, very different, because one of the new books is a horror story with vampires and voodoo, and then I'm writing a children's book.
Right.
You know,
that
it's like getting your
right.
fingers into so many different things. Now, how do you do it? I don't know. I'm glad that my wife hasn't divorced me yet, because I'm very open in my
she's happy. It's
studio.
keeping you happy.
She's keeping me happy. She knows what I love to do, and this is what I love to do.
Right.
Other guys in the community say, "Why don't you play golf? Why don't you play canasta?" I said, "No,
that's
not
That's
me.
right. Not exactly.
I am a writer. I produce.
Exactly.
I do shows. That's what I love to do."
Yeah. Let me tell you, we have another person watching. Robert Koontz is also watching the video. So, we get people listening, and you never know who's listening to and what they know, right?
You never know.
But the thing that's so amazing to me is that you really do see life as books. You do. I mean, everything you see, I could write a book about that. I mean,
that's exactly right. Because the horror story was based on a neighbor of mine who's an artist who creates masks out of parts of a palm tree, and one of them looked like a voodoo mask. I said, "Paul, that's the focal point. I'm going to write a story about it." He said, "Oh yeah," and now it's almost finished. It's unbelievable. But that's what writers do. That's what artists do. They have a focus, and they make things happen.
We have another person now. It's Dan Lippmann is watching. So that's good. Everybody, they jump on, and you never know what they're going to see on Facebook. But let's go back to this. But the thing that impressed me were some of the people who, when we had that other symposium that was fabulous. So some people have had this, that one woman that really sticks in my mind.
The Night of the Writers.
Yes.
I think you're referring to Rebecca Barber.
Yes.
Who we're just about finished with the manuscript. We're going to press in another month. And then it's going to be distributed around the world, because she's involved with an organization called the Sousa Mendez Foundation. And they're all over the world. They're very influential. And we're hoping that we can get at least, maybe in addition to the books, a docudrama. I think it could be a great film. But we need the right people to come on board.
The stories are so beautiful. Her story's a little unusual compared to...
It is.
I mean, you just... Of course, came up with this hero, the character, the story. Although inside you've had a lot of things with your being, the Jewish history in your life and what maybe you're looking for.
Mystical Judaism, they call it. But I'm really not religious into that. But I do.
But into the
I have
history,
studied.
Maybe
I've studied the Kabbalah. And that's the mystical part. And I from reading that helped me in the development of my story.
Now, something I was just thinking, this is crazy, because I don't know him personally, but my friend does know him personally. We have The Rock on the cover.
Right.
And The Rock happens to live in L.A., but he also lives in Southwest, what's called, in Broward County. It's called Southwest Ranches.
Okay.
He has homes there also. And I see him as Mackenzie.
Wow.
Of course, he doesn't, he'd have to have a blonde wig and all, but
right.
He's the kind of a guy that could be Mackenzie.
He could bring it across because Mackenzie,
oh, yes.
Mackenzie is a combination of James Bond
right.
and Indiana Jones.
Right, but you've seen him.
I've
he is
seen
very
him,
good.
sure.
So as you're talking, I'm saying to myself, we're trying to get him on the radio show, and if that all works. But my big thing is to get him to talk to you because people like that, they're looking themselves for all sorts of stories.
Solid story
right.
script. And
exactly.
once you have someone like that on board,
right.
then your producers start saying, oh, whoa, yeah,
right.
That's interesting.
Right.
Let me look at this trilogy
but
again.
Your story is the only one that I would even consider, putting myself out to. Yeah, I know. Well, I haven't met him yet, but we're working on something, so we'll see.
Who knows?
You know the story. Do you know his story? They're born in Brooklyn and poor, and you don't even know.
No,
you ought to look it up. Look it up on, on Wikipedia.
Okay.
He's quite a guy, really. He's very, very nice. Everyone says that he's as famous as he's become. He's a very nice guy.
Well, who knows what
he
the
takes care of his
possible
2 wives and his
are.
children and everything.
Terrific.
Yeah, so
terrific.
that's why he has these homes here in Southwest
Florida.
Right.
Hey, we could meet at
Southwest Ranches. It's in Broward County, right?
And talk.
Right.
Who knows?
Well, we'll see. I don't know.
Who knows?
I just threw that to you because I'm always thinking of you about what I can do to help you.
Thank you.
So now, I did ask you about this before. Tell me how long this would be like. What, about an hour or two of your consortium and.
Yeah, it would be, well, if it gets off the ground, which I hope it will, it would be a once per month meeting for about an hour to 2 hours so that a lot of people can talk and exchange ideas in a very comfortable environment. And, it'll be in my home. I have a studio in my home, and, people like to talk. People, want feedback, and they want to know what's happening in terms of their own stories, how to move it along. So I think it would be something great.
I think everyone, just the sharing is the important thing about what all their stories. They want to maybe you'll give everybody 5 minutes to just kind of talk about their own.
Well, talking about that, I can connect that to one of my other projects, which is the development of a video studio production, and you can have some of these people come on and I could interview them. Now, this would be in the community that I live in, the gated community. It's really like an extension, a modern 21st century presentation beyond, just the magazine that they have. And there's so many things that can come out of it. Everything from broadcasts about medical alerts or hurricane announcements, public service announcements, people in the community being videotaped that are of interest, and even little comedy skits. So that's a part that I already got it started. So I want to see how all this fits together. I mean, it's not up and running, but I keep pushing, and I've got a group of people that want to work with me on it, techies and writers and cameramen and all the editors, because everyone wants to do something creative. Not everyone, but I'll surround myself with those people that like what I do. So that's how we'll do that.
And you have the facilities out there, which
we
are
have
very
the facilities,
important.
Yeah.
And also the people who it seemed to me from people I did meet that the community has attracted, I would say, intellectuals as well as golfers, and they can be intellectual too. But so they're all looking for something. But it does take a leader. You know that they're not going to do this themselves.
To get it organized. Yeah, there are a lot of people in the communities are they're physicians, retired, doctors, dentists, accountants, business people, but that's what's attracted them to my Memoir Writers Club, because it was something different. So if I can bring them together to participate in a project like the video production club, pretty production studio. I don't want to call it a club. That to me would be very exciting. It's it's the organization. I'm kind of like, I'm an organizer. I'm a promoter. In fact, the next thing is my comedy club.
Yeah, okay. And you were serious about that.
It's an offshoot of the Memoir Writers Club, and it's going to be writers and performers who have done stand-up comedy or want to do stand-up comedy, and it's going to be in the form of the old
vaudeville?
The Dean Martin Roast and Toast Friars Club.
Oh, really?
And guess who's going to play the part of Dean Martin?
You.
Me, dressed as Don Corleone. My name will be Don Monty Three-Piece Corleone, and we'll be roasting and toasting.
This is fabulous. Are there enough people you think
you gotta have some fun?
Yeah, who are comedians?
I've met some of them. They're all excited. They said, well, when are we going to start? I said, well, I'm doing too many other things going on. Let's wait till the fall. I'm going to bring them all together and see what they have to say. And there are some really great stand-up comics too, not writers, people who have imitated Ruth Buzzy, for example, in a play which I saw, which is terrific. She's right in my community. She would be great.
So that's what's happened here. You can't sit still for a minute and think that the people there, the ones who do like what you do, are ready to jump in do this, aren't they?
To jump in. It's like, I'm hoping it's like sort of like a magnetic attraction, to come together, and we will produce some really interesting, fun things and ideas.
Well, I love talking and listening to you, because we started out that Monty was an author with writing a trilogy called The Secret, and he's he's been doing memoir writing, which I think is really important too, what you've created, because people had memoirs, but they didn't know how to quite even do it. What is your definition of a memoir?
A memoir, let me tell you what it's not. A memoir is not an autobiography. A memoir focuses on a few important points in a person's life, what I call the pivotal points in one's life. It could be when they went into the army, when they went to college, when they traveled, or something that happened in their youth. And it can be a string of pivotal points. So it could be a memoir that is not going to be hundreds of pages. It could be a mini memoir of 50 pages. It could be 100 pages. Just depends. That's the big thing. I have to help people to decide on what the focus is, and then get them to write about that so that it's not overwhelming. That's what it's about.
I see, because an autobiography is actually just a biography in a sense of their life, as compared to the memoir.
That's right. That I always tell people, it's not an autobiography. It doesn't start when you were first born and end where you are right now. No, it doesn't. And it can go back and forth in time.
But there are some people who want to write an autobiography too,
They do, but they after they're done with my community, my program on Writers Club, they can continue if they want. But most of them will stop and have it formatted in a way that it's just a focus on certain parts of their life.
So for you, if you were to write a memoir, do you know what you would focus in on your life?
I think one of the pivotal times in my life was living abroad in Berlin when I was 19, in a very dangerous time when the wall was up, and that to me, they gave me a message. I could be safe. I don't have to be with my family all the time, and it was an expansion for me to learn an awful lot about the world. Because after that, I traveled around the world. After I left Berlin, I learned different languages, and that was a pivotal point.
So this is what the memoir would be for you. So you have to think about that. I think most people do have to think, because older adults have so many times in their life, but they have to choose.
That they have to pick and choose those that are most meaningful. And what often happens is that when they start writing, it opens up memories that they have locked away for a long time. And sometimes that could be difficult. So to help them along with that. See, my background is psychology, so I can help them during those emotional times because it does bring up incidents that were not pleasant for some of them at different times in their life. And there's a great trust that's very necessary and the feeling of confidence in working with me. And that's what's made my Memoir Writers Club successful.
Well, this has been extraordinary. It always is when I talk with you. And I'm looking forward to, of course, being a part of the things that you're doing. And I wish you a lot of good luck. I can't wait I hope you'll call me as soon as we have
Absolutely.
one of our Hollywood producers or some New York producer, somebody. And don't forget, when and if I get an introduction to the big rock here, his name's Dwayne Johnson.
Yes,
Dwayne
absolutely.
Johnson.
Well, I'd love to meet him.
Okay,
talk
we'll
a little
see.
bit. So
we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Right, I'll hand him your book first.
Hand
secret.
him my book. I have something that's called Pitching Hollywood. He'll like that, and then he'll have the book on top of that.
Okay, I'll take care of it. Thanks so much, Monty, and
You're
good luck,
very
and
welcome.
we'll stay in touch.
Thank you, Anita. Bye-bye.